Now we're going to be talking about the status bar. Okay, status bar contains tools that enable precision in our drawing. It contains analytical tools that helps us to navigate our drawing easily. Now we're going to be talking about some of these tools. But first, looking at the navigation bar, we have the first tool here is called model. Model refers to this very workspace I am drawing. Let's say I'm done drawing and I want to switch to the layout which represents a printing page. Okay, I'll just click on it and it takes me to the layout panel. Okay, this layout I can now see my drawings over here. This is the borders of my drawing. So I can do a lot of changes here, including the scale factor, and I could also extract the particular section I want to print. So all this can be done on this layer tab. I'll switch back to model. Alright. Now next after the model is what we call the grid lines. Okay. Now the grid lines when activated, it helps brings out the grid mode. It can be activated either using the shortcut F7 or just click on this status bar over here. Notice when I highlight it, notice the lines. These are called the grid lines. Okay, these the lines as spread out all through my workspace. Now, next after we have after the grid is the snap mode. Now, the snap mode helps us to snap our lines on different distance intersections. And what do I mean? Okay, now looking at our grid lines, okay, we can notice they are tiny little box, just like the ones of a graph. Now the snap settings helps us to set the distance or the sizes of these small boxes that makes up this graph, so that while drawing we can easily navigate our drawing towards these boxes. I will click on this snap mode to activate it, then we'll click on the snap settings. Notice what I have here. Now I have a snap settings over here. So according to what I have here, it snaps to 100. Okay, notice the 100 it has snapped to is quite small from this view. Now I will reduce it to 10. Okay, and I'll also come over here grid spacing. This grid spacing is the spacing in this box. Okay, what are the spacing towards the x and y axis? So I will take it as 10 and as 10, and I will click OK. Now notice what happened. The grid line has now expanded. Okay, taking the settings of my snap over here. Okay, now over here too we can see other settings. You can see the polar tracking. Okay, you can see the object snap. Okay, snap, the dynamic input, and so on. So we'll just leave everything, just leave the settings here at default and click OK. Now the next one is the auto mode. The auto mode, as I said, it helps to restrain our line while drawing a horizontal or vertical line. It restrain our line towards the x or y axis. What do I mean? Now I'm going to draw a random line without the auto mode being activated. Now I'll pick a line too. Okay, so I should specify a point. Now notice I'll specify this point. Now notice I have this flexibility to draw at any angle I want. Notice I can draw whatever angle I want. I have that flexibility because the auto mode is not on. And let's on the auto mode and see the difference. Now when I activate the same line and I activate my auto mode, now I'm prompted to specify the first point. Now I'll specify this point. Now as I draw, notice I don't have that flexibility to attend other angles. I'm only restricted to 0° and 90°. So with this I could easily draw a straight perpendicular lines. Notice how my drawings are being restrained towards either the 0° or the 90°. So this auto helps us to reduce the flexibility of angles. It will change our angle towards vertical or horizontal axis. Now the next one is what we call the polar tracking. Okay. Now for us to be able to understand the polar tracking, as I earlier said, the polar tracking only tracks selected angles. So if I click here, notice there are varieties of angles here ranging from 90, 180, 270. You also have one of 45, and so you have one of 30, 23, 18. Now I'm going to choose this particular angle and see how it works. Now I'll cycle now. Okay, I'll use this one as an example. Now I'll select my line tool. My polar tracking is on. I'll have to select the midpoint because now I need the midpoint of this circle. So I'll just come over here and I'll select center. I'll unclick others. So this time, after clicking center, I'll just on this. I'll go into this letter. Okay. So I'll come now. Okay. I need to get my center. So this is the center of the circle. So I'll click on this and I will notice what happened. When I drag it, it will send my angle to the 45-degree. Okay, notice whenever I get to 45-degree, it snaps. This is my angle. When I get to 45-degree, it snaps. So I can draw lines of 45-degree easily using this tool. Now another way to illustrate the polar mode is by activating our line tool. Make sure my polar mode is on. Okay, let me just off this. Now watch me draw. Now I'll specify my first point is at 0 degree. Okay, so I'll just stop it here. Okay, now I want to track my next line on angle 45. Remember, I selected the 45-degree here. So when I just click out, notice I will take it up a little to trace my 45. When immediately I get to 45, it snaps, letting me know that I'm at 45-degree. So I'll just click stop. The next thing I'll also draw, tracing my 45. Once I get to 45, I'll enter. I'll just click enter and I'll just span it a little. Okay, press escape. Now I'll just draw again. Okay, notice how it snaps to other angles, like the angle 90. I will take it to this point. Okay, I will click enter. I will take it to this point. I will click enter. Next, I will look for my next snap, which is 35. I will click enter. Now I'll look for my next snap, which is 35. I will enter and I will click. So notice the polar helps me track the various angles I have here, which are 45, 90, 35, 180. So that's one of the importance of drawing. If you are making a drawing that has a definite angle, okay, so you have to activate the polar so you can easily help you navigate through these angles. So the next thing we have here is the object snap. If you don't have any of these activated on your status bar, you can go over here or have the tools here. So you can just go click on object snap and choose the object snap. It comes up. So you can add whatever tool you want over here. So I'll just add this unit and I will add this animation scale and auto scale. So good. Talk more on them. Now, looking into this just snap tracking and into the object snap. Now, for me to explain this, I'll have to draw a line. I'll just click on the line and just draw another line here. Now, it is all these are objects. Now, on this line, as you can see, it has the endpoint at this axis, the endpoint at this axis, and the midpoint. Now, sometimes while drawing, if snap mode is not activated, it will be very hard to dictate the start point or the end point, neither the midpoint. Okay, so for me to be able to get this point while drawing, okay, because let's say I click on the line 2 and I want to continue this drawing from this point. Notice I'm not getting a precise connection with this line. Okay, if I draw it, I will be drawing it out of line. But now I'm going to activate my object tool, okay, to see the difference. Then I'll also come here and activate. Now I'll click here because I'm working with endpoint and midpoint. So I'll just unclick and choose endpoint and midpoint, and I'll click enter. Notice once I draw, it snaps to the endpoint. I'll take it away, activate it again. Okay, now notice it gives me a reference mark towards this endpoint. Same thing as the midpoint and the other point. So now I can easily draw at any point I want. If I want the midpoint, I'll just take it to this place. Okay, draw. And also, if I want the end point, I'll take it to this place. Notice it snaps immediately to the end point. Okay, so same thing is applied on other objects. Now I also have an object here, and I want to connect some of the lines. Okay, using the end point and the midpoint. So I'll just click on my line tool. Okay, over here, this is my end point for here. I can drag it. Okay, this is my midpoint for this line. Okay, this is my end point. Notice how I am very precise in snapping this point. Now I can come over here. This is my midpoint for here. This is my midpoint over here, and this is my end point over here. I've been able to snap at its end point and midpoint. Now the next one we'll look into is the center of a cycle. Now looking at this, we have a cycle over here. Let me zoom it a little so you can see. Now let's say I want to draw within my cycle and I need the center of my cycle. Now how do I do that? I will still using the object snap tool. I will click on this drop down, unclick all this, and I will activate my center. When I click on my center, I decide to, I'll now click out, and I will go to my line tool. So immediately I highlight on the circle, I get my center reference. Okay, notify me that this is the center of the circle. So from here now, I can draw whatever I want to draw. Okay, next thing about the center that is also important for us to look into is the quadrant. The quadrant talks about the edges of the cycle. Okay, for this cycle now, we have 4 quadrants, which is this: the north, the east, the south, and the west. Okay, go to this snap, I drop down, click on it. Okay, you can see our quadrants here. Okay, so just activate the quadrants and just go back. Notice when I draw, it snaps to the first one, okay, at 90 degrees. This snaps to the second one at 90 degrees. Snaps to the third one at 135 degrees. Okay, it snaps to this other one and to this other one. Notice these are the 4 quadrants of this circle. This point, this point, this point, and I'm able to draw it because I owned my quadrant tool. Okay, now using this quadrant tool, I can draw any object. Let's say I want to draw an ellipse from the center of this circle. I'll just click here, okay, and delete. So I'll go to my ellipse tool. This time, it's I specify center of ellipse. I will come over here and I will click this time. Okay, so I will choose my measure axis as 400. Okay, enter, and I will now choose my minor axis as 1300. I'll click enter. Notice my ellipse has been drawn with respect to the center of this previous circle. So I could also go on and draw other things, okay, using my center and my quadrant. So when I just click on my line tool, it snaps to the quadrant of the ellipse. So I could join at any point I want. It easily snaps at it. Now the next thing is the geometric center. The geometric center is used to find the center of polygon shapes like the rectangle, the pentagon, and the hexagon. Now to be able to find the center of these polygons, I will go over to this snap, I drop down, click on it, then I will on my geometric center. Okay, I'll click on it on and click out. Now I want to join the center of these 3 shapes. So I'll click over here, okay, and I will drag, I hover around this, it gives me the center. I'll click on it, also come over here, I'll click on it, and I'll come over here too, and I will close. So with this, I have been able to connect the center of these shapes. Okay, But the next thing we will look into again is called the node and the perpendicular intersection. Now in AutoCAD, the node is referred to as points. We are going to be drawing this point. As you can see, they are very small. Okay, in order for me to enlarge it, I'll go to my format tab on the menu bar. I'll click on my point tab. I will increase this to, or I'll make it 150. Click OK. Alright, now things we could see our node. I will be connecting this node with a line. So I'll click on the line to, okay. They ask me to specify first point. Now notice it is difficult for me to pinpoint the midpoint of this node. So for me to access the node, I want to go to this object snap icon and I will on the node point and click as. Each time when I move over, I notice it gets a reference anchor on it. So from here I can easily draw my and connect the dots of my nodes. As you can see, very easy and very precise. I can just connect all the dots and the end I can just click close. Okay. The next thing we want to talk about is the perpendicular line. Now looking at this, we have two parallel lines over here, as you can see. So now we want to connect these two parallel lines by using a perpendicular line. So to activate that, we will go over to this. First, we have to snap our end point and our midpoint because we will be joining from the midpoint. Then we'll go to perpendicular and on it. Then we'll click at, we go to our line 2. Now I'm going to take my reference from the midpoint. While I stretch down, I get this reference line showing this is my perpendicular line. So I'll take it to this point and I will close it. Now, so this line now is perpendicular to both sides. So this is how we can create a perpendicular line. You have to on the node, you have to on it over here, then you trace the line. Okay, so you can go on. Okay, we can also draw it from the end point. Okay, just have to stretch it. Is whenever you see these symbols here, this symbol is represent perpendicular. Just lock it over to here and just close. Okay, now the next thing we're going to talk about is the intersection. Now, as you all know, intersection simply means where two lines meet. For example, the intersection of this line and this line is this point. Let's say I want to draw a cycle at this intersection. Now, if I activate my cycle tool, alright, and you are asking me to specify the center point. Now, it's difficult for me to get the center point of these two lines, even if I zoom in. Let me just span it. Okay, notice it's difficult to get the midpoint or the intersection. And to get this, you go back to the object snap tool and you click on intersection. You unclick others. Alright, so now when I click out and I'm asked to specify the center point, which is when I come to this point, I get the intersection cross. Okay, showing that this is the intersection of this point. So I'll click on it as my center point and I'll draw my circle. Okay, so I'll do same for this part. This time I'll click my circle. I'll come over here and watch it put a reference anchor on the center point. So I'll just put a reference anchor on the intersection point. I'll just click on it and I'll expand my circle. Alright, so I'll just make it this way. So this is how you can use your intersection. Now the next thing we're going to talk about is extension. Now you have two lines here adjacent to each other. And now let's assume this line are going towards this direction, is extending towards direction, and this is extending. It will get to a point around here where both will meet. Alright, so to get that point, you have to use our extension command tool. We have to turn on our extension property. So to do that, we go over to this icon also and you locate your extension. You remove the intersection and just click over here. Alright, so just click out this point. Okay, I'll be drawing a circle at the center point. So I'll just trace this point to this and trace this point to this. Okay, so this midpoint becomes my extension. So I'll just click on it as my center and I'll drag my circle on it. So when I'm dragging it, notice this is my circle and this is the extension. The next thing we'll talk about is the tangent. Okay, and the tangent is the line that cuts through the corners of two adjacent circles. So as you can see a bigger circle here and a smaller. And I want to connect a line that will be tangent to both circles. So I will go over to my object snap drop down. I will click on it and I will locate my tangent. I will click on it. I will click the other ones. Okay, and I will click out. Then I will choose my. Then I'm asked to specify the first point. So I will go close to the circle and choose the points of tangent. So I'll just take this point, okay, and I'll stretch it to the other smaller circle. So once I touch it, I notice I see my tangent icon on it. So I can just click on any of the points. And this line becomes tangent to the other circle. So I will go back again. So let me pan it just so you can see. Now I will take another line again. I'll take a tangent line from there and I will trace it down over to this part. I'll just take it down to this part and I'll just click on it. Notice my line has been drawn. So this is how you can draw a tangent line. Once you activate it and move over around the circle, the icon for the tangent appears. So you just click on the object or on the circle and you stretch. Copying of an object in Autocad helps us duplicate an object. It makes it easy for us instead of going back to start drawing that same object again. Now I'm going to be copying these two objects inside this building, this bed and this table. Now I don't want to go through the stress of drawing it again. So now to copy an object, either go to the modify command group. You can see this very icon here. It says copy, or you go over to the modify tab at the menu bar, click on it, get to see the command copy. Alternatively, you could search copy on the command line field. Okay, but for this exercise, I'm going to be using this very command here. Okay, so when I click on it, this prompts me to select object. So it's asking me to select the object I want to copy. So I will select this very object and I will click enter. Then it asks me to specify base point, which is the point I'm going to copy it from. So I'll specify this very point here, and then they are asking me to specify second point. Second point refers to the position I want to copy it to. So I want to copy it to this place. So I'll take it over here. I will snap it here, right? I will take it over here and I will snap it here. I will press escape to exit the command. Notice I've copied this very particular object to three positions or three places. I'll do the same for here. I'll click on it. This time I will select it. Alright, I'll go to the copy command. I will click on it. Asked to specify base points. Alright, I'll just pick any point. Okay, but if I want to pick the center of this circle, I can go over to my snap point and make sure my center here is clicked, so it will snap. You can easily snap to the center. I will click out, so I will now notice my has appeared, so I will click on it. This time I will specify my second point as here and as here. So just to show you a little example on what copy can do. The next thing we're going to be copying multiple objects. To copy multiple objects, the easiest way I can do that is first to select all the objects. For example, I'm going to copy this object down here. Okay, the 1, 2, and 3. I want to be copying it and placing it down here. So I'll just go over. So I'll just select and use this cross method. Once it's been selected, I will click the copy tool, right? It will ask me to specify the base points. Okay, I will come over here. I want it to be at this tip, so it is not snapping to this tip. Okay, let me just zoom it a bit. It's not snapping to this tip, so I want it to snap at this very tip here. So for me to do that, I'll have to on my quadrant. I'll just come over here, I'll on here as quadrant, and I'll click here. This time can snap over here. So I want here to be my base point. So my second point, let me zoom it out a bit so we can see what we're doing. Okay, let me pan it so we could appreciate where we're going. Now I've selected that as my base point. Now I will snap it over to here. Notice how I've been able to copy my objects from this position to this position. Next thing we'll look into is mirroring an object. Mirror is more like duplicating, okay, the exact object. Next thing we'll talk about is the mirror. The mirror is more like the copy tool. Let's say this object I just drew is a heart, and this is the half part of the heart. So I'm going to be using the mirror tool to create the other half part. So how do I do that? I will click out, okay. I will go over to my modify command group. Okay, notice this very symbol here. It's called the mirror tool. It's used to create a mirror copy of selected objects. Okay, why I still click on it, you notice a section of this appears. Now this over here, you can see the 3, the 1, and the 2. Now the mirror is creating another half part, which is this one I use, which is this very red lines over here. Okay, this is the part for it. Notice the mirror has created the half part, has completed the section of this part. So to initiate this command, you click on it, and it prompts us to specify the object we want to mirror. So this is a heart I want to mirror, so I'll specify it. I'll click on it, and I'll click enter. Okay, now I'm asked to specify the first point of the mirror line. So I need this particular point. Okay, so I'll click on it, right? Now they're asking me to specify the second point. My second point will be this very point. So I'll just click on it and snap it to it. The next see here says erase source document. What this is trying to tell us that if we go ahead to press yes, we're going to delete this very source, which is the first one, which we mirrored. I'll just click no. I don't want to delete my source object, so I'll just click no on it. Notice I've gotten the half of my other object. The same thing applies to this. Okay, I'm going to mirror it. So I'll click on mirror, right? Object. This time I'll just select the whole object because they are not polygon, but they are not together. So I'll just select it. Now click enter. Okay, so I specify the first point of the mirror line. I will choose this as my first point, right? And I will choose this as my second point. Snap. Okay, let's see it. Let me say yes, so you understand what this means. When I say yes, you can notice the other half goes away. So that's what the mirror can help us to do. Now the next thing we're going to look into is the one we call the filet command. Now sometimes when drawing, we might like to corner the edges of our drawing. Okay, for example, now notice this is a rectangle. Okay, we use fillets to get this curved part. So sometimes while drawing, we want to have a curved part on the edges of your drawing, of your polygon. So you use the fillet to get it. Okay, so to activate or to initiate the fillet tool, we go to the modify command group tab. Okay, as you can see over here, so you just click on this. On default is on fillet on default. So when you click on it, you can see other commands. So we're talking about the fillet and the chamfer for now. So when we click on the fillet, okay, notice what it says. The fillet, it helps round and fillet the edges of the object. Alright, so we can find it over here or at the modify tab in the menu tab. You can see our fillet over here. You can also alternatively you can also get it by searching it on the command line. Okay, so now looking at this structure, we're going to replicate what we have here as here. This has pointed edges. We want to fillet it to give it this round shape. So we'll go ahead and we'll activate the fillet command. Alright, they say specify select the first object. So this time we have to select our radius Over here, we're working with the radius of 600. So I'll just go over to I'll just click on this command line as you see the place that says radius. Okay, I'll just click on it and I'll just type my 600 and I'll click enter. So I have to specify the first object. Okay, this is the first object signifies the place you're going to corner from. The first point is going to corner from. So I'll click on it, and the second object is the other place to corner to. So I'll click on it. Notice I get my shape. So I will repeat the same command by typing select. Okay, specify the now. Once I activate it again, it retains the initial radius of 600. So I'll just go on and click on the first point and the second point. Notice I've gotten the same thing I got here. For the next example, we're going to fillet a multiple parts. Okay, notice this very object, it has multiple fillet edges. So you have the one of the 800, the 200, the 1000, 160. Okay, so I'm going to be replicating this to this very surface we have here. So I'm going to drag this closer so we can see what we want to do. Okay, this very part we are going to be using the radius of 800. So we'll just click on the fillet command. Now I will show you guys the way to fillet multiple corners. Okay, to make it very easy instead of every time going back to the fillet command. So you just click on this pops up. Okay, so you just click on this part that says multiple. Once you click the multiple, you click on the radius. So now I'm going to replicate what I have here. Notice I have different fillet points at this point. I have the one of 800, 200, 1000, 160. So these are multiple fillet corners. So to activate this, once my object fillet tool is being clicked, to activate this, I will click my fillet tool. Alright, I will now go to multiple. So after multiple is being selected, I will click my radius. This I will make it 800. This is my first radius. I will ask to select the first object. So this is the first object I want to corner. I will click on it. And the second object is this one over here. So I will click on it. So I'll do the same to the other edge. I'll click and I will click. Notice I've gotten my first point. For the next one is the radius of 200. Okay, sorry. So I'll repeat the same thing here. Okay, do the same thing here. Both they have the same radius of 800. So my next command radius is 1000. So I'll now click on this radius. Okay, remember you've clicked on multiple before. So the next you click on this radius, then you put the next data or the next number. You click on it, enter. Now first object, second object, first object, second object. Right now remaining this one inside. So to activate this radius of 160, 160, you also click on this radius again and you put your radius 160. Click enter. This time you click on it. Second object, first object, and second object. So that's how you can fillet multiple edges of an object. Now the next thing I want to show you guys, you can also fillet an arc. As you can see, there is two circles being fillet at the radius of 1200. So to do that, click on fillet command. Okay, this time click on radius. Okay, and then now the next thing I'm going to look into is the next object here is the arc of the cycle object. Okay, so I'm going to be fileting this or fileting this very object just as it was being done on this example. To do this, you click on the fillet command. Okay, once you click on the fillet command, okay, next thing you do, you go to the reduce command, you click on it. So I'm going to be making it 1200. You click enter. Okay, you click on multiple. The multiple makes the command to keep repeating. Okay, so I'll click on the first object and then the second object. So because I've clicked multiple, I can click in. So I'll click on the next point and then the next point. Notice I've repeated the same thing I did here. So the next thing we're going to look into is the chamfer tool. Now the chamfer, just like the fillet, the difference is that the chamfer cuts the edges. It does not give it a round corner. For example, looking at this object, notice when chamfered from this very length, it was cut. So to get the chamfer tool, we go over to the same icon of the fillet. we click on the drop down, click on it, you can see the chamfer command. So just click on the chamfer, notice the icon changes. When we click, notice what the chamfer does, it reverses the edges of the object. So notice at these icons, you can see at this icon in diagram that shown, you can see these dotted corners we are being cut or we are being revealed. So right now we're going to duplicate the same. So right now you can see this very length. Okay, so when we click on the chamfer command, right now we're going to activate the chamfer command. So to activate it, we go over to the this icon, we click on it, or we can go to the modify tab on the menu bar. You can see our chamfer. Alternatively, we can search it on our command too. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be using this very one at my modify command group. I will click on it. Okay, so we can do it on two methods, either through distance or through angle. Looking at this, it was done through distance. The first point distance and the second point distance. I'll just click on the distance. Okay, so the first one I'll make it 2600. I'll click enter. All right, now the second point will be 4800. Click enter. So 800, I will click enter. Now the first line, which is this line, I will click on it, and the second line I will click on it. Okay, notice I've replicate the same thing I did here. So this line has been chamfered. The next one we're going to look into is when chamfering the length and an angle. So this was chamfered at the length of 4200 at the angle of 30 degrees. So to do that, go back to we can type our chamfer on our workspace. Just type chamfer, it comes up. Just chamfer, it comes up. Click enter. This time we choose an angle. So it takes us to specify the length of the first line. The length of the first line is 4200. Click enter. Then specify the angle, which is 30 degrees. So you put 30 degrees. Click enter. So the first line is this one. So click on it. And the second line is this. Okay, so it has been chamfered at the distance of 4200 and at the angle of 30 degrees. So there are a lot of things, a lot of tools to do it on AutoCAD. I think the next thing on our list is the explode. In this tutorial, I want to be teaching you guys how to explode an object. Now, when drawing an object in AutoCAD, sometimes you might want to break bigger objects into component units, and the tool we are to use is called the explode tool. The explode tool helps us disintegrate or break a bigger component object into smaller units. Now, to explode an object, we go right into the modify tab. Over here, we could see our explode tool here. You can also access the explode tool from the menu bar right into the modify tab. So we just click on it. Okay, when we click on it, you can see our explode tool over here. Also, we could also get our explode tool by searching on the command field line. All right, so when we search it, we get to see our explode command. Now I'll be accessing my explode command through my modify tab. So I will go right ahead. I will click on my explode tool. Now this prompts me to select the object and to explode. I'll click on the object. Notice this object stands as a whole component object. Notice all the edges are together. Same with this. Okay, now when I explode it breaks into components. So I'll go ahead and click escape. Alright, now this time I'll click on the explode tool, right? And I'm asked to select the object. So I'll just click using the cross method selection. I'll select it and I'll click enter. Notice when I select the object, notice all the objects has been disintegrated or breaking down. Okay, notice I could not select it individually. The unit of the object has been disintegrated. Now I'll do the same for this object over here, which is the pentagon. Okay, so I'll just click escape. I'll go back right into the explode tool. This time I'll select my object, okay, and I'll click enter. Now this time notice how my object has been disintegrated. Now I can easily remove the parts individually or select the parts individually. Now in this tutorial we're going to be looking at how to stretch an object. Now stretch is simply a way of extending or expanding an object without having to move its position. To stretch an object, in this tutorial we are going to be stretching this very object. Now to stretch an object, you can go into the modify command group, right into the modify group command group. You can see our stretch icon over here. You can also access the stretch tool right into the modify tab. Now when we click on it, alright, we get to see our stretch. Okay, also at the command field line, you can access our stretch tool by simply typing the keyword stretch, and this gives us the command. For this exercise, I'm going to be selecting the stretch from my modify command group at the home ribbon. So I will select my stretch. The next, this prompts me to select the object I want to stretch. So to select the object I want to stretch, I'm going to be using the cross method. I will select some parts of the object. Okay, so I'll just click this, not selecting this very circle here. So I will click enter, and I'm being asked to specify the base point. So I'll take this side, this center of this cycle. I will take the center of this unselected cycle as my base point, and then I will take it to this point as my base point. Now I will select this point as my base point, and I will stretch it to this corner. Okay, I will release it. Notice my object has been stretched without moving its position from this point to this point. Now in AutoCAD there are some objects that cannot be stretched. As you can see, our cycle over here cannot be stretched. Also, other objects like the ellipse, and when I click over here, notice objects like the cycle, the ellipse, and blocks cannot be stretched. How to scale an object? Now, scaling simply helps us to either increase or reduce the size of an object without affecting the properties or composition of that object. To scale an object, go right into the modify command group. Alright, over here we could see our scale tool. You can also access the scale command right inside the modify tab. As you can see, our scale. Okay, alternatively, you can access the scale through the command field line by simply searching the keyword scale, alright, which prompts up over here. For this exercise, we're going to be accessing our scale command right into the modify command group. So I'll open the scale command. This prompts me to select the object I want to scale. So I will select this object and I will press enter. I'm being asked to specify the base point. So I will select this point as my base point. Alright. Then I'm asked to specify the scale factor. And the scale factor refers to the number by which this scale will be multiplied to. Now, if I put the scale factor of 3 and I click enter, it means it's going to be scaled by 3 times. So I'll just click enter, which is my object has been scaled into 3 times of the initial object. So I'll click Ctrl Z to go back. Now go back to my scale and I will select my object. I'll press enter. This time I'll select this as my base point. Okay, I'm going to select this copy tool. What this copy tool does is once I scale my object, it keeps the original object. So I'll click on my copy tool, okay, and I will select my scale to be 0.5, which is half of the initial object. And I'll click enter. Notice my object has been scaled to half of the initial point, keeping the original object. Now, you can also scale an object using a reference. For example, this is an imported road. It has an actual length of 38,659.2. Meanwhile, we want its normal length to be 22,000. Now, to be able to scale this actual length to match the normal length, we have to use the reference tool in scaling. So we'll go right into the scale command. We'll select our scale command, right? Then this time we'll select the object we have to scale. So I will select it individually, right? The other one and the inner part. And I will click enter. Okay, I'm being prompted to specify the base point. Okay, I will take this as my base point. Each time I'll click on the command over here, reference. I'll click on it. I'll take this as my first point and also this as my reference point. Then I'm being asked to specify the new length, and the new normal length is 22,000. So I'll just write it. Now I'll click enter. Okay, notice my object has been rescaled back into the normal length of 22,000. If I decide to take my measurement, we will arrive at the normal length of 22,000. Okay. Now we're going to be talking about how to offset an object. Now, offset an object is simply duplicating an object at a particular distance. Offset an object will either go to the modify command group. Over here, we could see our offset command, or we could go to our modify command tab. Just right in, we could see our offset. We can also access our offset by searching the keyword on the command, okay, to see the offset command pops up. Okay, now to offset an object, simply select the object, then click on the offset. I'm going to type a distance of 12,000. I want to click enter. Notice how my object has been offset with a distance of 12,000. And keep on offsetting. Now I'll click escape. And when I click on the offset tool, notice I get this command retrieve the erase and layer. And when I click on the tool and I click on an object, okay, it allows by simply dragging to whatever end I want. Now I'm going to be offsetting this other object, here. So I'll click on my offset tool. I'll click the object I want to offset. Alright, this time I'll click on the tool. Now just offset it this way. I'll do the same for here. Now, as you can see, I have two rectangular objects. I have the one formed with the line tool and the one formed with the polyline tool. So I'm going to be offsetting both rectangles. So I'll click on my offset command. Okay. This time I will select the distance of 5,000. Now I'll click enter. Now come to this point. I'll select this object. I'll set it to 5,000. Select this other object, 5,000. The next, and this also. Okay. Now notice while offsetting it, the objects are being offsetted individually because it is being drawn using the line object. Now when I go to the polygon object and I select my object, okay, remember My last distance was 5,000, so it returns the distance of my last entry. So enter. Okay, I can also offset the object outwardly and inwardly, so outwardly and also outwardly. Alright. Now in this tutorial, we're going to be talking about how to join an object. Looking at these two objects, we have a rectangle and a randomly drawn line that has been drawn using the line command tool. And notice when I select this object, they are individually separate objects, okay, which means I could modify them individually. As you can see, it selects and remove. I could offset, I modify, I could erase or apply any changes to them individually. So I'm going to press Ctrl Z to undo. Alright, now in this exercise we are going to be joining. Now what joining does, it brings these individual objects together as a whole entity. Alright, so to activate the join command, I click on the modify drop down over here. I will see this icon over here. It says join object. It combines series of objects together to form a single component. So I could access it by clicking on this join, or over to the modify tab. You could click on this, click over to the tab. You will see our join command over here. You can also access the join command by simply searching, typing the keyword join on the command field line. You can see over here on the command field line. For this exercise, I'm going to be using the join on my modify command group. So I will click it over here. Right now, this time it wants me to specify the source object or the multiple objects I want to join. Now, because I want to join the individual objects that form this rectangle, I'm going to use the cross selection method. This time, I'll just select all of the objects and I'll just click enter. Notice this time, my object now serves as a whole entity. If I want to remove it, I could remove it as a whole entity without having to move a particular section. The same thing applies to here. These are individual objects, so I'm going to be joining them. So I will type my keyword join. Alright, and I will select it. This time I will select all these objects. Notice as I select, it gets highlighted. So I will press enter. Notice my object now has been joined to a single entity. I could now modify it as a whole entity. Alright. Alright, okay. Now, how to break an object. Most times, while drawing in Autocad, you might want to break an object or split an object into 2 points. Now, to break an object in AutoCAD, you can search the command on the command field tab. Notice we get the command tool over here as break. Or we could go to our modified command group. We click on the drop down. You can see we have the break icon over here. Or rather, we could still go to our modified tab, right? And we can see our break option. So for this exercise, I'm going to be using the break on the modified tab. So to break this object, I will click on this modified tab. I will click on A. This time, I'm asked to select the object, so I'll just select the object because it's a whole entity. So I'll select it and I'll click enter, and I'm asked to specify a point and to break it from. So I'll click over here. Notice my line has been broken into 2. So I will zoom into, you could see, maybe I'll repeat the command. So I'll go over to the modify, I'll click on break, and then I'll select my object. Alright, then I'll be prompted to specify the second point of break. So I'll also choose this point. So I will choose whatever area I want. So I'll choose this time, I will choose this point as my breakage. Okay, notice my line has now been broken into 2 different points. So I will press Ctrl Z to undo my command. Alright. Now, the previous break command we learned, it breaks an object but leaves a gap in between. While the break at a point splits the object but it does not leave a gap. So to break an object at a point, we click on the modify command group. Just next after the break command, we have the break at a point. So we select this. This prompts us to select the object we aim at breaking. So we select this very object and we click enter. Okay, the next command says specify the breakpoint. So I'm going to be breaking this object from this point over here. So I will click on this. Okay, notice. And when I click, I've noticed my object has been broken into two separate parts. Alright, so I have the part A and I have the part B. Okay, so that's it for breaking an object. Alright, now the next thing we are going to talk about is the arraying an object. Now, array is simply the even distribution of an object along a pattern. We have three types of array. We have the rectangular array, the polar array, and the path array. Now, the array tool can be located at the modify command group. As you can see, when we click on the drop down, we get to see the three types of array: the rectangular array, the path array, and the polar array. We can also access the array command by going to the modify tool. Okay, click on this drop down and the same types of array comes up here. You can search for array on the command field box. Just type our array and what immediately the array command pops up. So we could use any of these options to initiate our array command, just as we have previously used in other commands. So for this exercise, I will click on this rectangular array. So this prompts me to specify to select the object. So I will select this object. Now press enter. This time it's passed my object in a rectangular pattern. Now once this happens, an array creation panel box pops over here, so I can see varieties of properties of the array I can edit. I have the columns, I have the row, I have the distance between them, and I have the total. Alright, so this total sums the both of factors. So in this case, I am going to make this 6. Alright, and let me make the distance to be 3000. I'll come over here, I'll make my row to be 5, and I'll make the distance 3000. So I'll just click enter. My object has been dispersed in a rectangular pattern. Now next over here has to do with level. Okay, so we don't need that for now, except we are working on 3D array. So the next over here is the associative icon. Now when we click on this, what it does is it it merges all the array to become one. So once it is being activated, the whole array acts as one object. Over here, so I'll click on it because I want all of them to act as an object. And the next over here is the base point. And the base point simply allows us to define the base of the array. So when we click on it, okay, we can decide to make our base point over here. So notice the base point has shifted from this other point to this point. So when I'm done, I'll just click close array. Alright. Now this time, remember I selected associative icon, so now I'm going to move it downwards. So I'll get my move to. I will specify my base point as here, and I will drag it down. Okay. So if I want to disassociate them, let's say I want to break this to I want to disassociate it for each of the items to act individually. I will simply select the Go back to the modify tool, select the explode icon, then I will select object and I will click enter. Notice they can now act as individual objects instead of as a whole. Now the next one is the polar array. Now the polar array helps to distribute the object along a circular. To activate that, go back to our array drop down, we click on it and we select the polar array. So we click on the polar array, select the object, press enter, then specify the center of the object we want object to take its path from. So I will select this. Notice my object has encircled. I could increase this to let's say 8, right? So I could play with the distance, I could play with the number of rows, but I will leave this as default. Okay, I could take out the base point from this corner to another point. I could change the direction, but for this example, I will leave everything as this and just click close. Okay, notice my object has taken a circular path. The last one is the path array, and the path array evenly distributes the object along its path. To activate it, we go still to on the array command group. When we select our path array, we are being prompted to select our object, click enter. Then we are asked to select the path curve. So we click on this path, alright, and immediately it gives us a default distribution. Now in the path tree, the distance between them determines the number of objects being distributed. So over here, I'm going to increase the distance so as the number of objects will be reduced. So I will make this 6,000. Okay, and I'll click add. Okay, notice once as I reduce the distance, it's it had an effect on the number of the objects along this very path. Okay, I can decide to change the row, change the distance, and the rest. So when I'm satisfied, okay, over here is also the associative control. Okay, if I want the object to be as one entity, I will select it. But if I want to disassociate it for them to be for them to act and behave individually, I will make sure it is being unclicked or unselected. So when I'm done, okay, in this scenario, I've removed the associative control, so it is now individually. So it is now that in this scenario, I've unclicked the associative command, so the object can now act on its own. So the objects are now being separated. So I'll click on my close array. Notice that my object now acts singly. Now, when I notice I can now select my object singly instead of having to select all at once. Okay, so that's all for the array. Alright, now we'll be talking about dynamic input. Now, in AutoCAD, the property called dynamic input is actually a feature in AutoCAD that helps to review the properties or the features of other command tools or other tools in AutoCAD. To access the dynamic input, we go right into these three icons here on the status bar. Alright, now right on this list, we could see dynamic our dynamic input over here. You just have to do what to click on it and make sure it's tick. Then the icon appears over here. Now I am going to draw a line without it and also drawing a line with it so we could see and compare the differences. So I'll go to my line tool, I'll activate my line tool. from my home ribbon. So I'll click, then it asks me to specify first point. Notice I'm only being asked to specify the first point at my command field line. Okay, not on my workspace. So I will click to specify my first point, right? Then I'll just stretch. Over here I say specify the next point. So I'll just stretch to this point and I'll just release. Okay, so this is, and I'll press escape. So this is a line drawn without the dynamic input. Now we're going to be turning on the dynamic input. So I'll just click over here and I'll click on it. Make sure it is built on view, just as other activated tools in the status bar. So now I'm going to click also on the line tool. When I click on it, okay, notice what happened. I get a message on the workspace asking me to specify first point. If I hover around the workspace, notice how the coordinate changes. This is the coordinate of the blend face. This is the coordinate of the workspace where my pointer is pointing at. Okay, and which is directly where I'm going to draw from. So I will specify this point as my first point. Then I will stretch. Notice as I stretch, some information shows on the workspace. Okay, information for the distance and that for the angle. Alright, now when I'm drawing, the dynamic input allows me to input the distance I want. Let's say I want to make this 5,000. Okay, I can also press tab to switch to angle. Okay, and I'll make this 0 degree. I'll press enter. Notice my line has been drawn. I still also have the option to extend my line and also to change or alter my angle. Now I'll press escape. Okay, now I'll come over to here. And this particular edge, once I click on it, I get the message that says to stretch and to lengthen. Now, if I decide to stretch, I'll just drag it over. Let's say I want an additional length of 2,000. Okay, now first notice my line has been extended with the total length of 7,000. 2,000 is plus the 5,000 initial length, so which makes up 7,000. I could also click over here. Right now, if I press the tab, I go back to make it 5,000. Right, it goes back to the initial length. So I'll click now. I'll double click on tab to switch to an angle. This time I'll make it 45 degrees. Now click back. Notice my angle of my line has been changed. Also, the dynamic input can also be used in selection of an object on Autocad. For example, I have various objects here. I have the circle object, I have the elliptical object, I have the square, the rectangle, I have the rectangle, and the pentagon, which is the polygon with 5 sides. So now, when I click on my circle, okay, I get the 4 quadrants and the center point. Now with this center point, and also I also get an information concerning my circle, whereby I get to see my color, my layer, my line type, okay, my center towards the X and Y axis, the width of my circle, the diameter, the circumference, and other information. And when I click on this center point over here, I can easily drag, okay, to change its position. Okay, I could also I could also change the radius or the diameter over here. Let's say I want to make it 8,000. Okay, notice how my circle properties have changed. Alright, now the next one is the ellipse tool. Also, the ellipse tool behaves like the circle tool. When this point activated, could easily move and move to change its position. It is when the ellipse tool is being selected, I also get the ellipse object property, where I get my layers, my color, my layers, my line type, my measure of radius, and the minor radius. Over here, I could click on it to change length and also click on the menu to change its length. Or I could just just click on the ellipse. Notice I get this length, okay, of the measure and the minor. I could select it and probably input whatever number I want. Let's say I want to make it 5,000. I'll click enter. Okay, and I also come over to the minor axis, click on it, and let's say I want to make it 2,000. Okay, so notice how this is how I can effect some changes on my electrical tool and my cycle tool. Now next is the rectangle and the pentagon. Now unlike the cycle and the ellipse tool, when the rectangle is being selected, okay, notice the center point, okay, is not being found. Same goes to all polygon objects. So as just as the pentagon, notice there are no center points, unlike the ellipse and the circle. Now I have this middle or center point over here. Now when the rectangle is, I get four vertices and four center points. I could play with any of these points. I could stretch it, I could add vertex, I could remove vertex. Okay, so when I click on vertex, that particular vertex over here goes away. So I'll click Ctrl Z. Okay, I could extend by stretching. I could change the length, let's say 2,000. It goes below. I could also play with any of these four vertices. I'll click Ctrl Z to undo. Another way I could extend the length and breadth easily is by dragging the center point. So this is the most recommended use of extending the rectangle. Click over here and I can stretch it. It stretches uniformly. Any of these 4 points can be used to expand the rectangle. Now the same goes to the pentagon. Over here I have 5 vertices and also their center points. I could extend and stretch from any of these. So I'll just leave this as default and press Escape. Okay, selecting and deleting overlapping lines in Autocad. Now sometimes while drawing an Autocad, you might encounter or have some overlapping lines. Now overlapping lines are simply lines. They are lines in between one another. I'm going to be drawing a line. So overlapping line simply means line that lapses one another. For example, I will select a polyline. I will draw a polyline. Okay, now press Escape. Then next I'll select the line tool. I'll come over to the polyline. I will click on the midpoint and I will stretch also. I will switch back to the polyline. This time I will locate the midpoint of this line tool. I will select it and I will stretch and I will draw. Now I have 3 lines over here, 2 polylines and 1 line. The 3 lines are overlapping each other. Notice for example, this is the first polyline, okay, and this is the second line polyline. Now notice when I over push to this line, at the point whereby these 2 lines intersect, I get this little icon over here, letting me to know that there are 2 lines lapping each other. If I click on it, it gives me a more preview of the lines and the polyline. Alright? So once there are more than 1 line at a particular point, Autocad gives us, so to select any of the lines that are being lapped, you just have to click on it. Just click, select the line you want. Alright? You can either move it, delete, or modify. So I'll press Escape. This time I will be deleting the lines. I'll press the delete key and the line goes away. Sometimes you might have multiple
overlapping lines. So to go over deleting them one by one might take a whole lot of time. One of the easiest way to delete these overlapping lines is to go over to the modify command group, click on the drop down, you can see this icon over here that says delete duplicate objects, or we go over to the modify tab at the menu. Right into this, you get the delete duplicate object. Or you could just type on the command sheet like overkill, okay, and just notice the icon comes out, and then you just select it. Now this prompts us to select the object we want to delete the overlapping line. So I'll just click, use my cross method. Now just select, now press enter. Now this dialog box pops out. I get my tolerance. Over here I get to ignore object properties. So whatever box I click, it ignores it. If I click on the color, it ignores the color. If I click on the layer, it ignores the layer. So I'll just leave everything over here as default. I'll come over here. Now I have the optimized segment within the line. Under it, I have the ignore polyline segment width, and I also have do not break polylines. So below I have combined collinear objects that partially overlap. I have combined collinear objects when aligned end to end. So I will leave everything as default and I will click OK, and immediately my lines get deleted. Okay? This is how we can select and delete overlapping lines. Alright, now in this video we're going to be looking at how to insert block from Autocad library. Now block are simply collections of geometric objects which act as a single object. As you can see in this drawing I have here, you can see our bed, you can see the chairs and some furniture. All these are called the block. Access or view more blocks from the AutoCAD library. You can access this through the Design Center. The Design Center can be gotten either by searching it on the command field line as design. Alright, you can see it over here, or we can go to our view tab, just right into the pilot command group. You could see our design center icon over here. We could also access this through our two tab, just right into the pilot icon. You can see our design center. I will be inserting my block from my view tab. So I'll just go right into this command group of the pilot. I'll just click on it. Now this takes me into my computer. You can see some saved folders inside your computer through your design center. So what you do is you click on the PC, on this PC, you go into the local disk. The local disk is your system directory. So you click on this plus to expand. And this time we scroll down and locate a folder called program files. As you can see, so you can use this to shift it a bit. So we click on the plus sign to expand the program file. This time we click on Autodesk. Okay, for this tutorial we're using Autocad 2022. So we'll expand 2022. Then we locate our sample, click on the plus sign, and then we locate our US, and then our design center. Okay, let's open this for us. As you can see, this dialog box over here. Now over here are varieties of blocks you could use. So we click on the house plan. Okay, plan block. Now we can see some saved default. Mind you, you can also download your block. So for this tutorial, I'll be inserting the sofa round block. So to insert a block, click on it, you get a preview of what the block is like. As you can see, so I'll have to double click on it. So this pops up a dialog box that contains various fields. The first one is the insertion point, then the scale and the rotation. And the insertion point signifies the point the object or the block is being inserted according to the coordinate system of the origin. Now, if I unclick this, I get the X, Y, and Z. These are the points on the coordinate system of the workspace. Now, it's unrealistic to use this point because it's quite difficult to ascertain the origin with this X, Y, and Z coordinate. So I'll just go on and click on it. So I could specify on screen. Okay, the next one is the scale. On clicking this checkbox, it also has the X, Y, and Z direction. Now, when the uniform scale is activated, the block is being scaled uniformly towards the X, Y, and Z axis. Alright, but if I want to change this, let's say I decide to unclick this, and I have the right to change any of the factors here. Maybe I want the X to be twice bigger than the Y and Z coordinate. So I'll just click uniform scale. I'll click over here as specified on screen. The next one is the rotation. The rotation is all about how the object is being positioned in terms of angle. So we have currently is on the default angle of 0. Click on it. Okay, I'll make my angle 180. I'll leave my units of block as inches and I'll click OK. So this time I'm being prompted to specify on screen, so I'll just minimize this. Alright, so I'll click over here and I'll stretch it a bit. So make sure I scale it proportionately. So I will drag it to I get the size I want. Alright, so I will leave this as this. I can also rescale it to the size I want. To rescale the block, click on it, go to the home tab, click on the kill command. Then you are being asked to select the object. So I'll select this object and I'll press enter. Okay, I'll stick here as my base point. Okay, and I will stretch. So this side is okay for me. Okay, let me make it 0.5 in my scale factor. Now when I'm done scaling it to the size I want, okay, I can now move my sofa into the plan. To do that, I'll have to turn on my nearest in the object snap tool. I'll click on it. This time I'll select my object. I'll click on move. Alright, I'll specify here as my base point. And I'll come over. It snaps immediately to this line. So I'll just select the point, the spot I want, and I'll just release. And it immediately snaps to the work plan. I can also insert other objects of my choice by clicking on this arrow over here. I get to see other blocks like the bed. So I'll click on the bed, double click. So you have one more option here called the explode. Now when this object is clicked, what it does is it breaks our blocks into individual units, alright, which can be modified. So to explode your block, click on its composite unit. In this exercise, I'll be leaving it as a combined unit. So I'll unclick the explode and I'll click OK. This time I'll specify my random point on this workspace. Alright, so now I'll select my bed, go back to my scale tool. This time I'll specify it as my base point and I'll scale it back. So, okay. Now I will be moving my bed over to the first plan. So to do that, I will select my bed, click on the move tool. So before I move this, I will have to turn on my insertion point. So I'll click on my insertion point. Then I'll click that. I'm being asked to specify the base point. So this is my base point over here. So I will now drag down to the plan. I want my bed to be inserted of the wall. So I'll click on it. I notice my bed has been attached to the wall. So I'll click on this cancel sign to close the design center dialog box. Okay, so this is how we can insert objects and blocks from AutoCAD library. In this tutorial, we're going to be talking about how to create a block. Now, there are two methods of creating a block. The first one, once an object is converted to a block, it could be used in a recent or current project. While the other method, when the object is converted into a block, it will then be saved into the computer and be repeatedly used in any project it is being inserted. Now, for this tutorial, I made two house plans. As you can see, this is the first plan and the second plan. And I could not get the likable door and table of my choice, so I had to create one. Okay, now looking at this object, this is an architectural door and it's a customized table which I drew. Looking at this object, this is an architectural door. It is made up of single units. One may say, why not copy it into the project? Now, if I copy or move it, it won't contain the block properties and it will not be a single unit. So I want my block to be a single unit. I can always insert at any position or at any point of my choice. Now, to create a block, simply go into the Insert tab on the home ribbon, right into the block definition panel. You can see the icon over here, the create block. So click on the drop down. We have two methods, the create block and write block. So click on this create block and this prompts a dialog box asking us to specify the name of the object we want to convert to a block. So I'll name it my door. Alright, now the next I have here is the specifying the base point. And the base point has to be the point at which it will be inserted from. So I will unclick this and I'll select pick point. So this time it asks me to specify the base point of the object. So I will zoom in a little so we could see. Now pan it. Okay. Now I'll turn on my geometric center. This helps me to specify the center of any 2D or two-dimensional objects. I'll click on it, but in this scenario, I will specify here as my base point. Alright, so it has gotten the coordinate system of the object I selected. Then the next is to select the object that I want to convert to a block. So I will click on select on this green icon over here. Then I will select the full object of the door and I will press enter. Now I have three options: retain the object, convert to block, and delete. Now once I select it, I get the total number of individual objects selected, which is 5. Then I have the option retain, which means converting the object to a block and retaining its property. The other one says converting the object to a block and also allowing the object to remain a block The last one is converting an object to a block and deleting the original object. Now I'll leave the behavior as default. Over here allows me to explore. So I'll come over at this point. I have a block limit, so I will select my limit of the block as my meter. Okay, and when I'm satisfied with all I have here, I can undo this to in order for the block not to be exploded. When I'm done, I'll click OK. Now you can see our object has now been converted to a block. Even if I have to delete it, I can also insert it by going into the block icon and click on the drop down. You can see these are saved block. Search for my door. Notice my door has been automatically saved into my project. So I'll click on it and it asks me to specify point of insertion. So I'll click here as my point of insertion. So my scale 1, I'll do the same for all the openings I want my door to be in. Now I'm going to convert this object into a block. So I will go to the block duration. I will click on the create block. This time I will select specify on screen. I'll make my name. I will use the name my red table. I will leave this as specify on screen. I will select and over to the object. I will click on select object. This time I will select my object. Now press enter. The total number of objects is 6. So I'll select it as convert to block. I'll leave every other settings as default and I'll click OK. And then my objects are converted to block. Now once my object is being selected, I'll move it to any point direction I want. So for me to save a block and be able to access it on other projects, I'll have to save it using the second method, which is the write block. Now, in this tutorial, I'll be converting this object over here, which defines the depth of the plan as a block, which I could use in other projects. To use that, I'll be using the write block method. So I'll go right into my insert tab, click on my write block. This time it prompts me to specify the base point of the object. So I'll select the pick point as this. Before I do that, I'll turn on my center on my 2D snap setting so as to snap to the center of my object. So I'll specify here as my base point. Then it gets the coordinate position of the object. So I will select the convert as block, and this time it asks me to select the object I want to convert to block. Notice before now I get this message here, no object selected. So to be able to select the object, I'll click on this icon over just as the previous method we used. Now I'll select the object. Now press enter. It has now selected that object as you can see here. Now over here as to the directory parts of the block, I can change the name to, let's say, my foundation. Okay, I can access the location by simply clicking on these 3 dots over here. Click on my PC. Now go back to my desktop. Okay, and I'll save it right as a DWG file on my desktop. Over here, I could change the block limit to whatever limit I want. I will leave it as meters, and when I'm satisfied, I will click OK. Now, this block has been saved. So, to access the block I've saved, I will go over to my insert and click on the drop down. So I see a variety of saved blocks. So I'll go over to recent block. Okay, as you can see, our block which we see icon over here. So you can use this in any Autocad project. So I'll press escape and I'll go to the new object I created. So this time I'll click on insert and I'll click on recent blocks and you can see our foundation blocks over here. So I just have to click on it and drag it out. Now as you can see, I've inserted my foundation depth into a new project named drawing 1. Alright, so you could save any block and use it on any project of your choice. Alright. In this tutorial, we'll be talking about working with layers in AutoCAD. The layer panel is found right into the home ribbon. You can see over here. To access more details or to see more details on the layers, to see more details of the layers, click right into the layer block. Okay, this opens a dialog box, so we just expand it by stretching. We will expand it by taking our cursor to the end of the and taking our cursor to the end and stretching it so as we could see its properties. Now we could see that the object has been grouped into layers, and we could see that multiple layers have been created on this project. We have the zero layer, which is the default point layers. This is not advisable to use because it doesn't get printed. It's invisible when printing. Now we have other layers. Now we have the the tick code icon over here. This shows us the layer that is currently in use. So currently the zero layer is in use. Now over here is used to turn on and turn off the layer. Once turned off, the object in this layer disappears. So I will click on it. Notice I get this box message that prompts me to I get this message box that says the current layer will be turned off. I'll just click on turn off and you may notice how the objects that are being saved on this layer all disappear. So I'll click on it back to turn it on and they all appear. So the next one is the freeze an object and it makes it invisible on the project. When a layer is turned on, it can't be used. The next one is to lock the layer. When clicked, the layer gets dimmed and with the layer being locked, the object it becomes inaccessible. So I will click on it. I have the printing option. Right over here, I can change the color of the layers. Current is on white. I can make it yellow. Then I'll click OK and notice how the colors of my layers changes. I also have the line type. It is on the default continuous line type. So for me to view other line type, I'll click on those and I get to see other AutoCAD save line types. So I will select whatever one I want and I'll click OK and this leads into the line type dialog box. So I will select whatever one I want and I will click OK. The next is the line width. The line width allows me to modify the width of the line. So currently is on 2.11 millimeter. I could reduce it to I could take it to default. I'll click OK. So I have the transparency. This allows me to increase or decrease. The more I increase the transparency, the less the object is visible. And I also have the description and other properties. Now, to create a new layer, we go right into this icon over here. I will click on it. I will use the shortcut Automate plus N. So when I click on this, the new layer is being added. prompting me to name it. So I'll name it as furniture blocks. Okay, now I'll click out. So I'll choose my color as purple. Now I'll click OK. So this time I will select my furniture as the current layer, which means whatever drawing I'm going to be drawing is going to be on this furniture layers. Now to do that, you click on this icon over that says set layer as current. I'll click on it and immediately I get the good tick on my furniture. Okay, now you can over here you have the new layer viewpoint and you have the delete layer. To delete any layer of your choice, you just have to click on the layer and you click on this icon over here and it immediately gets deleted. So now I will click on this close to exit my layers panel. Now I want all furniture objects to be inside the furniture block layer. So I will select each furniture. I will right click. Now I will click on select similar. So now my furniture blocks has been selected as current layer. I will be grouping all my furnitures into my furniture layers. So they will contain the properties of the furniture layer. To do that, I will select the object individually. So select the bed, furniture, and select all these objects. Now my furnitures have all been selected. This time I will go to the layers panel. I will click on this rectangle over here and I will select the furniture blocks. Now release. Notice all my objects has been saved into the furniture block. Now we can change the properties of an object by simply changing the properties of the layer. I will be changing the properties of the door object. So I will select door individually. This time I will click on the layers properties and I will select the door over here and I will click. I will press escape. Notice my door properties have been changed from furniture block to the door layers. Now professionally it's advised to always create the layer before drawing objects so as to have full control over their properties. To change the properties of the object, we simply go into layers properties. As our furniture is being saved as current, we could change the color from purple to, let's see, green. Or click OK and immediately our object's properties are being changed. We can also reduce the transparency. Let's say 50. I'll press OK. Notice the transparency of our furniture object has been reduced. Alright. Now, in this tutorial, we'll be looking at changing the properties of layer in Autocad. We have a door object over here with various layer objects. We have the dimension layers, we have the inner object, and we also have the cycle layers. Now, in order to effect change on these layers, we're going to turn off the now we're going to effect change on the dimension layer. In order to do that, we're going to turn off other layers. To turn off other layers, we go over to the layer command group, click on the layers properties. Okay, this time I will turn off the layer 0, turn off the cycle, okay, and then turn off the layer A. Then I will click auto hide. Notice I only have my dimension layers, so I will select it. Okay, I'll make sure all my dimension objects are being selected. I'll go over to this to the layer properties. Just over here I have the object color. I will click, so I'll make this green, okay, and I'll press escape. So and I'll press escape. Notice how the color of our dimension have changed. I'll go to other layers. I'll click on my layer properties. This time I will turn off my dimension, okay, and I will turn on my outer layer. Now I'll select my object. I will go over to my line width, click on it, and I will select 0.5 and I'll press escape. Notice I've changed the line width of this object, but it is not showing over here. Now to make the line width appear or show on our object, we have to turn on the line width command. To turn the line width command, we click on the status bar on these three lines over here. We'll click on it, okay, just below the 2D object tab. We have the line width. So if yours is not clicked, just click on it and click out. Now the icon comes over here, so we click on it. Immediately our line width appears. Layer properties we are going to change, right, and we've done the rest off. So we'll click out. This time and also change other line type. I am going to change these properties to this very one. So to do that, I will select my object, okay, I will click on the line type. This time I will select Autocad ISO. So note, and I will press escape. Notice how the line type has changed. I can change the scale and make it 10. I'll press enter, escape. So this is how you can change the layers properties in AutoCAD. Alright, now we're talking about working with the properties of an object. Now, there is shortcuts in changing the properties of an object. To quickly access this property, select the object, alright, and right click on the properties panel, right. This gives us a dialog box containing the properties of the object. We see over here is the color. We could change the properties, the color properties by clicking on this drop down and select any color of our choice. To access more color, we'll click over here, okay, and you can see we get a full dialog option of colors. You can just click OK to select. We have the option of selecting the layer. We also have the option of selecting the line type and so on. We also have other options: the line width, the line color, the line thickness. We can change it to whatever line width we want. We have all other properties which we could use to edit and change the properties of an object. The next option for changing the properties of an object is the quick properties. To access the quick properties, select the object, you right click, you can see just below the properties we have the quick properties. This gives the measure properties of an object. You can see clicking down, it gives the total number of all the objects, the number of line, number of hatch, and number of polyline. Over here, we could change the color and we could change the layer. So the quick properties only reviews the most important properties, while the properties to review all other properties of the object. Okay. Alright, we're going to be looking at centerlining an object in AutoCAD. In AutoCAD, there are other ways of adding a center mark or a center line to an object. To access this command, we go into the Annotate tab in the Home ribbon. Just right into the center line, you can see the center mark icon. So this is mostly used to mark the center of the selected circle, arc, or polygonal arc. So I'll click on it, I'll select circle, right? Notice what I select. My center mark is being added. It can also be used for arc and elliptical too. So the next one we are going to look into is the center line. The center line, this adds a center line to any geometry. This adds a center line geometry to of a specified line type in the association of a selected line have a rectangle overhead. So to add a center line, we click on it, we select the first line and then the second line. So it mediates between the both and gives us our center line. So we do the next for the top and the bottom. Okay, this is our center line appears. We do this also for this parallel lines over here. So we select the first one, or select the second one, and then we get our center line. Now I want to now I will change the properties of my center line. So I will select it, alright, and I will right click, and I will go to properties panel. I will change the scale to 1000, hit enter. You can see my scale, my center mark has been added. Okay, measuring of an object in AutoCAD, it might be required of us to measure an object, either its distance, its length, its area, or the angle. To measure an object, we go right into the Home tab. Just after the group, we have the utility. So we'll click on the drop down. You get this icon right that says measure. Alright, so we have the quick measure. We click on the drop down. We get varieties of measuring properties. We have the distance, we have the radius, we have the angle, we have the area, and we have the quick volume. Now, if I click on the quick, notice what happened. Once I point my cursor on an enclosed part, it measures the part, giving me my length and breadth of that object. Notice I have two measurements. The next one, which is the distance. The distance gives the distance between 2 points. For example, I will measure the distance between this bed and this wall. So I'll click on the bed and I'll extend it to this wall. Okay, notice I have an option showing the distance of 2935 meter.1. Okay, for radius, I'll have to select the curve. Okay, right now this is my wall with the curved part. So I'll click on it. Okay, notice I get my radius as 984.2. I can click on my angle at 90 degree. Alright, the same I can also select my angle at this tip and select these two lines. Okay, and I get the angle of 111. I can also calculate my area. I'll just have to specify the area I want to measure. So for this exercise, I will select from this corner to this corner. I'll make sure I enclose around it. Then I will drop it at this extreme and press enter. Okay, notice it gives me the total area of this and also its perimeters. I can also go ahead to measure the total area of the house by clicking on area. I'll click from here this time. I will extend it this point. I'll make sure I select all corners of the house. So this time I'll click over here because I have an arc corner. So I'll click here at this window. So I'll select this window. Okay. The next point I will select as an arc. Okay, this time I'll take it to this point. This time I'll change it back to a line. Okay, so I'll take this point. I'll take this point. I'll take this point down to this point, then to this point, to this point, and I'll lock it up here. I'll press enter. Okay, notice I've gotten the total area of the space on this building. Alright, I also have the other properties. Below this dialog box, below this I have some information on my command field bar. As you can see, I have the distance, the radius, the angle, the volume, and all. Alright, now I want to be measuring area of this building and subtracting the area of the house. So I'll click on my measure. Talk about is the adding and subtracting area. So we'll go right into the utility, we'll select the area option. Now this time I will be adding an area. Now what does adding an area means? It's simply picking a particular part of the full drawing and getting the measurement. So I'm going to be adding this area and this area. So I'll click over here, right? Click here on this thing. Okay, now drop it here and drop it here. Okay, press enter. Okay, notice over here I have my total area of this and the total perimeter of this. I will also add other areas by clicking over here, right, then over here, click on here, and then I lock it over here. Enter once I'm done with my measurements. Okay, I notice I get my measurement details, the area, the perimeters, and the total areas. Now the next thing I want us to talk about is the subtracting an area. Now I'm going to be subtracting the area of the building from the area of the compound. To do that, I'll click on my measurements and I'll go to area. This time I'll click on add area. So I'll select the full area. Alright, then I'll snap it to this point. I'll press enter. Then I'll select my subtract area. For this time, I'll specify here the corners of my proposed building plan. I'll make sure I get the outer west corner. Make sure I snap it to this tip. Okay. So I have to make the video snappy. So I have to pause the video and complete it. Now I'll snap it at the last corner. Okay, and I get the enclosed area. And once I'm done with the corners of the building, I'll press enter. Notice immediately an information over here. So I get the total area of the subtracted boundary and the total area. Notice I have the area of the subtracted boundary as 14 as 145273952.1, while the total area 754718472. Alright, now the next thing is measuring the volume of an object. To measure the volume of an object, click on the utility bar, click on the drop down, then you get the last option, the volume. So we click on it, then we select object option over here, and then we'll select the object of which we want to calculate its volume. Okay, the Messi is selected, you get the green boundary around it. Ask us to specify the height of the object. So I'll pick my height as 1000. Now enter. Okay, you can see the total volume is calculated as 2827433.882. Alright, that's how we can calculate the volume of an object. Adding text in Autocad. Now, while drawings, we might be needed to add annotate text to our, to our drawing in AutoCAD. So, to access the text option, we go into the Annotate tab on the home ribbon, we click on it. Okay, so we get annotate tools and command group. You can see the option for the text, option for the dimension, the option for the center line, and other annotate options. For this tutorial, we are going to first learn about annotate text. So this time, we click on the text icon over here on the drop down. Now we get two options, multi-line text and single line text. Now the major difference is one is editable when inserted and the other is not editable when inserted. So the single line, which is the one below, when a text is entered, it only requires the point of insertion and the length, and this one is independent. After the text is inserted, we can't edit it, while the multi-line text can be edited and modified after insertion. First, I will click on the single line, okay, and I will choose my scale factor and click OK. Okay, and this prompt me to specify the first point and then the next point. So once I stretch this across the workspace, it signifies the size of the text. So I can make it 4000. Now press enter. So now I will type my text round. And notice the more I increase the letters, the size of the text reduces. So when I'm done, I'll press enter and my text is being inserted. Okay, it can be edited, but I can only move or change the properties over here. Once I select the text, I get the text properties. Alright, I can change the layers, I can change the graphic, but I cannot change the height properties of the text. For example, if I decide to make this 1000, 10,000, I click enter, it goes back to its default height. So now we are going to use the other option, which is the multi-line. Multi-line, as I earlier said, allows us to modify the text even after insertion. It also gives us more modifying properties. So I will click on the drop down and I will select it. It asks me to specify the first color, so I will select this as my first color and I will stretch. Alright, then I will drop it over here. So immediately I get a text enabling field for me to type, and I also get the text editor, which as you can see carries a panel of the text properties. You have the text style, the text formatting, text paragraph, the inserts, symbols, and the rest. So this field over here allows me to type my word. So I'll type bedroom. Notice my text seems very big and, falls at 2 rows. So what I will do is I will click on this ruler over here and I will stretch it, okay, and make sure it is being in line. Also, the size of the text needs to be reduced. So for me to further modify my text, I will have to select it, because if I go on modifying with that selection, it might not reflect on my text. Now my text is selected, I can go over here Okay, I'll reduce its size. Okay, so I'll click on this drop down to select previously used size, or I could just click on this, and I could make it, let's say 500. I'll press enter. Okay, this time I will drag this my ruler to match with my text over here. Also, over here I have other properties. I could embolden it, I could italic it, I could cross it. Okay, I could also match it with another text. I also have the other option, the subscript and the superscript. Okay, remember the subscript and the superscript. So whatever option you want, I'll click it to return back to normal. Over here, you can change the text font. When you click on the drop down, you will get to see different installed fonts. We just select any one of our chairs. Okay, over here, we could choose the color of the text. So I will make it yellow. I also have the option of changing the layer of the text. So I'll put my layer as 0. Alright, now the next over here is the paragraph margin. We have the justification. When we click on it, you see different options: top left, top center. So when we click on top left, it is aligned towards the top left. Top center, as you can see, we click on middle. You can try with any of these options. So I'll leave it at default top left. I also have other indentation properties over here. I have the left, I have the center, I have the right, and I have the justify. So you can play with this. Also, we have the line spacing. So we can click on this and select any line spacing of our strings. We could clear, we click on more to add more line spacing. So you can add column, you could even add symbols. Let's say we want to add a symbol not found on our keyboard. We just click on this drop down over here. You can see various symbols over here. To see more symbols, click on the other. Okay, this time this pops up a dialog box for us whereby we could search for any symbol we are looking for. And once we locate it, we just have to select the symbol and we'll click insert, and then we'll click copy. And after that, if we also have the option of changing the font over here, but I will leave this as default. Now press escape and I'll right click on my text and I'll click on paste. Notice my symbol is being added. Also select it. Okay, this time I will go over to my snap mode and I will select insertion point and click out. So this time I will select my text. I can move it to whatever font I want. I can also right click on it and I also move it. To modify it, just double click on the text. Alright, let's say I want to remove the symbol sound. I'll just simply select it and press delete. I will reduce the length of the ruler and I will click out. Okay, I can also select, right click and copy my text to other rows. Okay, and on my open mode. So after that, I could right click on each and every of them and edit till and select reduce the size, or just press enter to align it in 2 columns. I could do the same for here. I could do the same for here. Kitchen. Okay, now press enter. This is how we can add and modify annotate text in AutoCAD. Alright.